Hello everyone, a warm welcome to this session on what is the right timing and pacing strategy for the GMAT. I wish all of you a good morning, good evening, good afternoon based on wherever you are, and I hope all of you can hear me loud and clear. So just want to make sure that my audio is clear to all of you before I get started. So I do see there are a few people who are live right now. So do let me know. Do just send a quick yes, you're audible in the comments. That way I will get to know if all of you can hear me loud and clear. So do let me know if my audio is clear to all of you. Okay, so let's see if I have any comments yet. I don't see any comments till now, guys. Do let me know if my audio is clear to all of you so that I can go ahead and get started with the session. So I see about a couple of people are live watching the session. So is my audio clear to you, all of you now? Are you able to hear me, guys? Okay. I'm not sure about that. I don't see any comments in the chat. But in the interest of time, I'm getting started. And please, whoever has joined, do let me know if my audio is loud and clear. I'm Piyush. I'm gonna be the main host of this session today, and I have about 9 years of experience mentoring students prepare for the GMAT, get into their dream B schools. In fact, today I received a very good news from one of my students who has just got placed in Amazon UK. So it kind of makes me feel really excited about the small things that I do, and it impacts the students' lives in a long run so much. So I love helping students out with the strategies for the GMAT preparation. I've taken the test myself and scored a 740 on the GMAT with first attempt. And personally, I love analyzing data and coming up with timing strategies, test prep strategies, and other things. So that's what I love to do. I represent GMATWhiz today. I am a strategy consultant at GMATWhiz. And thank you, Prajwal and Manatosh, for letting me know that my audio is clear. So I'm so happy to hear that. So without any further ado, let's get started with this pacing strategy session. And this is a very, very interesting session where I'm going to answer some of the common problems that people have. So why don't you guys tell me, like Prajwal, Manatosh, you guys are here with me, and I see there are other 15 people who are in the session. So do let me know what are your common concerns when you're taking the test about pacing, about going through the test in the best possible fashion. Like what are the common questions that you have in your mind? Now, I'm going to definitely answer some key concerns which I hear from students on daily basis when I interact with them. I'm going to answer those key concerns, but do let me know what your questions are so that if there is anything which I've not covered, I can definitely talk about it as we proceed through the session. So some common concerns that I hear from students are as follows. For example, I hear people telling me that I always feel time crunch towards the end of the test. When I'm towards the end of the test, I'm not sure, I'm not having enough time, so I don't know how to pace myself so that I have enough time to get everything done on time and complete the test. Another common concern I hear from students is I don't understand how the GMAT adaptive algorithm works. We know that GMAT is an adaptive test, but how does the algorithm really work? What are the nitty-gritties? What are the small things? What are the minute things that matter? That is something which I'm not very confident about. So this is something which a lot of people talk about. Some people say I'm scoring poorly because I'm not able to do the last questions properly because of timing issues. I will answer that question as well as a part of the session. Some people say, how do I improve? How should I improve the average time spent per question? I don't know. I am taking too long to solve the question. As you can see, most of it is around the timing strategy itself, that how should you time yourself. Many people also come and tell me that I feel anxious on the test day. My mock scores were really good, but for some reason on the test day, I'm not able to replicate the performance. I end up making silly mistakes under that pressure, and how do I get rid of that? So these are some common concerns that I'm going to answer today. And I see Prajwal saying that I have already attended the GMAT once. I feel my biggest concern is the art of letting go a question that I'm not able to answer. Very valid point, Prajwal. I will definitely talk about it. How we should let go. In fact, there is one part in the Quant strategy where I'm going to talk about it. In verbal also, I'll try and talk about that particular aspect. So very valid point. I'm definitely going to take that up, Prajwal. And anyone else has any queries about the timing strategy, do feel free to post them in the comments. At least that way, I will keep that in mind and take care of it as the session proceeds. Okay. So a very small announcement before I get started with the session. We are actually running a free webinar series. We started this Saturday itself. itself on November 13th, where we are basically doing 10 sessions, 2 sessions every weekend, and this 5 week webinar series. We are going to cover the most important aspects of GMAT verbal as well as quant, and some strategy sessions as well. So in case you want to register for this free webinar series, there are only limited seats which are available. You can definitely use this link, which I have already shared in the comments as well, to kind of register for the series. And if you enter your WhatsApp number, you will also receive WhatsApp notifications whenever a webinar is going live. So do check the series out. It's completely free and taken by senior experts who have 10 plus years of experience helping students out. And this is all about the right strategies for the GMAT. Now, how have I structured this session? So how I have structured this session is very simple. We will actually first start with some case studies on the test strategies, basically. So the overall, what are the, like, I'll not just give you some random strategies. I'll actually show you some data so that you're able to understand why the strategies that I'm talking about make sense. So I know that the title of the session says it's about how to pace yourself. So we will get to the timing strategy for verbal. But before that, I want to make sure that you understand how the algorithm really works. Only then the timing strategies that I talk about will make sense for you. And then I will talk about how to reduce time spent per question. Okay, so I'll then from there I'll tell you that, okay, for this timing strategy to work, what is the ideal time that you need to achieve for solving each question? And in order to achieve that ideal time, how can you reduce your time spent per question? And from there, we will talk about the timing strategy for quant as well, because on GMAT, you have both the sections, quant and verbal. So you have to work on both the areas as well. So we'll talk about that. And then in the and I'll give you some additional tips, and any open-ended questions that you have for your GMAT preparation, I'll more than happy to take them up for you. So Prajwal is asking, I have my test on the 7th of November. How much will this benefit me? So Prajwal, if you're asking about the current session that we are taking, this is definitely going to be super helpful for you, because we are going to talk about the pacing strategies. If you are talking about the free webinar series that I talked about, again, a lot of it is going to be very beneficial, because some of them are strategy sessions. Even the verbal and quant sessions, many of them will talk about overall strategy for that particular area as well. So those things are going to be really, really helpful as well. Yeah, so if you're talking about this particular webinar, then definitely it's going to be really, really helpful, and you will get to know as we speak, move forward. So let's understand first how the algorithm works. And to just kick off our discussion, to just start off our discussion, I have an interesting question for you. And this is the question around pacing. So how do you think smart students take the test? Okay, I'm giving you two options, guys. Do you think that smart students pace themselves in a way that they have enough time for all the questions? Or do you think smart students pace themselves in a way that they fall short of time in the last 4 to 5 questions? What do you think is the way smart students take the test? And do let me know what you think about this in the comments here. I would want to see your point of view. And this is just a teaser question to get your sense of in which direction the session is headed. And trust me, guys, it's gonna be a very let's say myth buster or a revealing session for many students who do not understand the GMAT algorithm in depth. Okay, so I have two responses, one from Sai and one from Anshuman. Both are saying I go for the second option. Himmat has joined them. He said second option is better. Okay, that's great. That's great to know. What about others? I have about 23 people in the session. Okay, Prajwal says it's got to be the first one, right? Good point, Prajwal. In fact, I'm used to seeing more people going for the first one than the second one in reality. But yeah, today is a different day. Like I see Rajdeep, Himmat, Anshuman, and Sai all going for 2. Ahmed says, I think the toppers finish with enough time left. Okay, Ahmed, I don't know what is your definition of toppers. That depends on the definition of toppers as well. Like if you're talking about people with 770s, 780s, yes, probably. I would agree with you, but not necessarily for the other categories. Not necessarily, I'm saying. I'm not saying not or necessarily. I'm saying not necessarily. Okay, so I see 6 comments. I would have appreciated a little more, because I see about 26 people in this session today. But yeah, anyway, looking at your comments, what I can understand is most of you think the second one is better. What I personally feel is the second one is what most people go for. Smart students go for people who are basically looking at a very good score of 700 plus. Unless you're someone who is at a 770, 780 level, that's a different story. Even to the level of 750, 760, I think the second option is slightly better than the first one. But this is just to give you a direction of the session. All of this is not my observation, like just not my observation, not my opinion. This is fact-based judgment which I have derived, and I'm going to show that to you through the case studies that I have brought for you today. Okay, so let's start with the first case in point. And just to make this case more interesting, I have brought a case which was the case with me. Like this was the exact case, a situation I was into when I was taking the test. So this is the scenario when I was approaching the end of the verbal section. When I was approaching the end of my verbal section, I remember seeing about 14 questions left to be done, and there were 19 minutes left on the clock. So you can imagine the kind of timing I had. Like 14 questions, 19 minutes basically means I had less than 1.5 minutes remaining per question. So that was the situation that I was in. And I want you guys to kind of place yourself in my position for a moment. Try to place yourself in my position. Imagine that you are taking the actual GMAT. I'm not talking about a mock test, guys. I'm talking about the actual GMAT. It is your first attempt. You are left with 14 questions and just 19 minutes on the clock. And to my surprise, I see a RC passage. And yeah, that passage was a weird, convoluted passage, as in the language was very complex. It was not easy. The languages were big. The sentences were big. And the context also, the genre of the passage was from humanities. I, being an engineering student, did not relate to a lot of humanities related topics. So it was very difficult for me to kind of keep my focus, keep my attention on that passage. And what I did was I started reading it about 20-30 seconds. I read like very fast because obviously I was running short of time. So I started reading fast, which was not my usual self, by the way. Usually I don't read that way. But because of the time pressure, I started reading quickly and I was not able to make sense out of anything that I was reading. It was really, really a tense passage. So I was actually forced with a choice. What do I do in this situation? How should I approach my test? And there were three options which were in front of me. Obviously, this was not a question on the GMAT, but these are three choices that I had to pick from. First choice was I could skip some of the questions in the passage. Instead of skipping the entire passage completely, I could skip some of the questions or do them half-heartedly. Okay, try to save time over here and then move forward to the next questions. The second option I had was I could do the RC well, this RC really well. I could give 100% effort to that RC, and then in the last 10 questions I can try to be selective and do few of them properly and few of them I can just ignore. The third option which I had was skip the passage entirely and focus on getting the last 10 questions right. That was the third option which I had. Now, I want you guys to tell me, I want you guys to take a minute, think about it, and tell me, what do you think, if you were in my position, what do you think is the most optimum thing to do? What do you think is the most optimum thing to do? What is the best approach in this case? A, B, or C? What will you do if you are in my position? I want you to take a minute to think about it and let me know what you think you will end up doing in this situation if you were forced in the same situation I was in. Okay, I have a response from Jose. Jose says, I would go for C. Okay, Urvashi and Prajwal. Okay, today I'm seeing a lot of people in the beginning going for one single option. Urvashi, Prajwal, Jose, all three of them say I would skip the passage and focus on getting the last 10 questions right. Okay, what about others, guys? Okay, Himmat says I am gonna be going for B with B, choice B. I'm gonna do this RC well. And Himmat is joined by Dickon Fernandez, who also says I will go for B. Salini, Rajdeep, Abhijit joined the league. They say I will go for C. Okay, I'm not seeing any takers for choice A till now. That's again usually not the case. When I take this webinar, most people go for choice A followed by C, and very rarely people say the right choice is choice B. But most of them go for A and then followed by C. Today I'm seeing a different trend. I see most people saying C is the best option. I would skip the passage right away and focus on getting the last 10 questions right. Okay, I'm just giving another 10 seconds for other people to participate. I see about 30 people in the session. I only have received about 10 responses till now. And I would request all of you to participate. This helps us in learning together. So do let me know what your thoughts are on this, guys. Okay, so feel free to participate. That way you will be able to generate some value, and do feel free to post your thoughts on this as I speak. Please feel free to refute me. Please feel free to question what I'm saying. I love being questioned, and I love helping students get rid of their doubts when they have those in mind. Obviously, I have to also look at the clock when I'm answering your queries, but definitely put in your doubts so that I can take care of those. So let me tell you what I did and how I thought. So and I'm not going to just jump to an answer. I'm just basically going to explain you how I thought and how did I come to a certain conclusion. That way you will be able to relate to the discussion better. Okay, so first I started analyzing choice A, and honestly in my head choice A and choice C were very similar, but I'll definitely do an analysis of choice C also later. But how I analyzed choice A was like this. Okay, so I knew that I am someone who is a prepared test taker. What I mean by prepared test taker is that in the mock just before like the test, the last mock that I took, I scored a 760 on the test, on that mock test. And it was an official mock test. So it was a reliable test as well. And I was confident of my skills because it was not like when I was not seeing a lot of fluctuation in my score. So I was confident that I'm a prepared test taker. So what I thought was that, okay, I saw a passage which is weird or convoluted. So there's a weird and convoluted passage in front of me. What does that mean? Can anyone of you tell me, if I see a weird and convoluted passage, what could that mean? What could that signify? Anyone? What are your thoughts about it? And this is a very crucial piece of information, guys. Understand it this way. If that passage is weird and convoluted, it most and to someone who is a prepared student, it most likely means it's a hard question, right? It most likely means it's a hard question. So I'm gonna get a set of hard questions. Now, if it is a hard question, then what does it mean? It also means that I have done well till the point in this test, right? So I see some comments. Himmat says it is a high scoring question. Yes, it is a hard question, so high scoring question. Prajwal says it's a science RC. Okay, I did not have to guess that, Prajwal. It was a humanities passage. It was a hard one for me, definitely. Shalini says that you are anyway going to get questions wrong. So Shalini, I will refute that because I was a prepared test taker, as I said. I did not get terrified or afraid of, let's say, harder questions. It was not like I cannot get them right. So in 700 plus range, Rajdeep says exactly. So that's how I thought that till now, basically, whatever I have done, I'm getting a hard question. What that also means is whatever I have done in the test is basically good. So I'm at a good position right now. I've put in a lot of effort. I have tried to do well to reach this level where GMAT gives me a difficult question. Now, if I am going to skip that, and Shalini, this is for you. Exactly right now, you just talked about better to skip it. I'm gonna skip that, then I'm gonna be a fool. Why? Because I've worked so hard to get a hard question which carries high value. Okay, understand it this way. In GMAT, every question doesn't carry equal value. Harder questions carry high value. So I have put in so much of effort to get to a level where I'm getting a hard question. I will be a fool if I do this half-heartedly or even skip it. Trust me, guys, skipping it is even worse than doing it half-heartedly, in my opinion, because if you're skipping it, you are most likely getting everything wrong. So if both of these are wrong, in my opinion, A and C both are wrong. C is even worse because you're getting 4 questions wrong consecutively, most likely. So what I'm doing is I am getting the high value questions wrong, but that's not where the story ends. And please understand this, guys. I want your 100% attention on this point. That's not where the story ends. It's not like I'm done with these questions. I have more time left for the last 10 and I'm going to be I'm going to be passing the test with flying colors. No, GMAT as a test is very, very, very particular about you getting the hard questions right. Since it is an adaptive test, if I get these hard questions wrong, what it is going to do to me is that it is going to give me questions which are going to be much more easier. So it is not just punishing me for getting these questions wrong by giving me no score for these wrong questions. It is punishing me further by giving me low value questions. The last 10 questions will be low value questions. So what I am basically doing is I am actually trading off high value questions for low value questions. So my score will drop significantly if I go for A or C. I hope this is clear to all of you guys. Okay, Salini says, saved me, happened with my first official GMAT. I took 2 days back. I didn't skip, but did half-heartedly. Good. So again, very important, guys. You need to understand this. And if I would have gone ahead with this strategy, which is, by the way, something which mostly about 80% people go with A or C. Trust me, this is what most people do. They will try to save time. They will panic in that situation and they will go for this strategy. If I would have gone ahead with this strategy, my guess is I would have scored somewhere in this range, 36 to 39. Again, very difficult to actually talk about the exact score, but I would have definitely been in this score range overall. So this is something which I would have ended up with. But let's see what I did. So what I thought was that let me do this RC well, because my thought was very simple that, okay, I am left with 14 questions, 19 minutes. Doesn't matter. Even if I take a lot of time for this question, I will just selectively do the last 10 questions. And I'll tell you how I went ahead with this. I took 20 seconds, as I said, for the first reading, right? Where I did not understand anything. I took another 20-30 second time for like strategizing. Let's call it strategic pause. Okay. I stopped and thought about what I'm going to do. So I've already wasted 1 minute and I've not done anything in this 1 minute. Okay. And then I took 5 minutes approximately to read the passage. Just to read the passage, guys. I've not solved any question till now. But what I was able to achieve in this 5 minutes approximately was that I was able to get the meaning very clear. So on an average, the next 4 questions which were there, I could solve those 4 questions in 3 minutes itself. And I got everything correct. So if I subtract all these things, at the end of those that passage, I was left with this equation, 10 questions and 10 minutes. So what I actually did was from 14 questions, 19 minutes, I dragged myself down to 10 questions, 10 minutes. This was the situation that I came to. And I have proof of all this on my ESR, guys. So I'm just validating everything with what I did. And then this is what happened. So I got those questions right, which means I got not just the hard questions correct, I also made the algorithm serve me even harder questions in the last 10. So I'm not benefiting just from the questions that I got right. I'm benefiting even from the last 10 questions. I just did 6 of them properly. And I peacefully marked 4 choices, 4 questions randomly. I did not spend any time on those. So for 6 questions, I spent 10 minutes. On an average, I made sure that I did SC as a preference and then CR. I tried to get whatever I could right instead of rushing through all 10 and then messing up all 10 of them. That's also a bad strategy. So I did just 6 of them, got as many as possible correct, and the rest 4 I skipped. And my verbal score was a 41. Okay, I hope this case in point clarifies a lot of things for you. I have a few questions. I'll just take them up. So Jose says, but having 10 questions left, don't I have enough leverage to build up my score again and finish it with harder questions again and a stronger score? So Jose, again, understand it this way. If you are at a hard level, you're performing well in these questions, you're performing well in low questions. Then if you go to the hard level, there is no upside over here. You don't have enough time to get those questions right. Understand it that way. You are like there's a saying that just forget it. One in hand is better than two in the bush, something like that, right? I'm forgetting that saying. So you have that hard question with you right now. Why do you want to waste that and actually risk it to go for easier questions, and then you are again risking that you get those easier questions right in that timing pressure, and then you get to the hard level which is not going to give you any benefit. And I'm going to give you more ESRs, Jose. Just be with me. I'll show you more ESRs. In fact, to give you an idea, one of my student scored a verbal 44, and this student has had just 30 seconds for the last 3 questions. For the last 3 questions, he just had 30 seconds, guys. He guessed all those 3 questions, but still had a verbal 44. How many of you are aiming for that? How many of you know someone who has a verbal 44? It's a very, very difficult score to achieve. But this guy was still able to achieve that score. He followed the same strategy which I talked about. I'm not asking you to buy this strategy. I'm just telling you the rationale which I had behind my strategy. Okay, Shalini has a point. She says, little chance that you will get very hard soon after doing 4 RC questions wrong. If I get this wrong, I will not get very hard questions anymore. Like the algorithm will decrease the difficulty level. So see, what I did, I did because I believed in my capability of getting the hard questions right. And if I don't believe in my capability of getting hard questions right or even RC questions right, I should not be taking the GMAT with that higher goal. If my goal is around 700, 690, 680, I could have still skipped it and gotten to a wobble 36, wobble 39. But my goal was much higher. So if my goal is much higher, I should believe in myself. I should build that confidence before taking the test. And understand it, guys. The strategy is not going to magically give you a 750 on the GMAT. You have to be prepared for that. The strategy is going to maximize your score. So I hope this strategy was helpful to you. So let me help you understand, guys, that the main difference why I was able to get to the score that I got eventually, the biggest difference was that 20-30 second strategic pause that I took. And I want you to register this as a point. If you want to take one learning out of this entire session now, just one lesson. If you just want to write one thing on the top of your notebook, write this down. If you are under time pressure, if you are anxious during the test, you should not continue taking the test in that fashion. You should pause right then and there. You should take a strategic pause. Ask yourself, what are you doing? Because I've seen many talented students screw up their test just because they give into the timing pressure. In the timing pressure, they start following methods that they are not used to. They will continue working in that pressure. And the worst part about that pressure is, if you don't take a pause, you will actually mess up things. Okay, and that's why you have small strategy breaks in most of the sports. You can take a time out. Coaches always do that. Talk to their players who are in the heat of the moment. They are not able to think clearly, and give some sensible advice to them to do better, perform better. And that's what I did, and that's what improved my score. So with that in mind, let's move to the next part, and I'm going to make the algorithm very easy for you with a simple illustrative example. So what you see right now is a simplified version of the algorithm, not exactly the algorithm, but it will give you a decent idea. Okay, so let's try and understand this, and then we are going to take up more case studies. So basically, whenever you start the test, all of you will start with a medium difficulty question mostly. So when you get this medium difficulty question correct, the next question which is served to you is a medium hard question. If you get that question correct as well, the next question which is served to you is a hard question. Now, if you get that one correct as well, the next question will most likely stay at a similar level or get a little harder. Now, if you get this question wrong, for example, then you will get the next question as medium hard, which is, let's say, assume for a moment that you get that wrong as well. So if you look at this student, can you tell me what is his score and his accuracy? On this 5 questions that he has done, what is the score that the student has achieved? You can see the scores on the y-axis for medium, medium hard, and hard questions. Tell me the score and the accuracy of the student in this 5 questions. Just do a quick math. Just do some quick maths and let me know. What do you think is the score of the student? Okay, let's wait for a few comments. Simple maths, guys. Teeny tiny calculations you have to do, and let me know what do you think is the score. Shalini says 21. Okay, really, Shalini? Think about it again. What about others? I see about 24 people. This is a simple question that I have given you guys. Come on, tell me what do you think is the accuracy of the student and the score. You have the scores on the y-axis. 12 on 21. On 21 is a big question, but yeah, 12, that is right, taken. So this student has scored 12 points. You can say out of 21 in that sense, but yeah, he has scored 12 points and his accuracy is 60%. His score is 12 points high. Look at the weightage given to medium, hard, and hard questions. So that was the score of the student. Now let's take another example. Let's say another student started with a medium exam test question. He gets that question wrong instead of getting it right. Okay. The next question is an easy medium question. He gets that one wrong. And the next question is an easy question. He gets that one right. The next question is easy medium. He gets that right. And the next question is medium. He gets that right. Now look at the score of this student also. This student scored only 6 points. 1 for easy, 2 for easy medium, and 3 for medium question. He has scored 6 points. But what you need to focus on is both of them have exactly the same accuracy. So even after having exactly the same accuracy, which is 60%, we are talking about one student getting 12 points versus another student getting 6 points. And this is a huge difference, guys. I'm talking about difference of 2 times nearly, right? And exactly same accuracy. So GMAT algorithm is not like any other test. GMAT is not like any other test where you just get more questions right and you have a higher score. No, in fact, I'm going to actually show you actual scorecards of GMAT where you will be actually uh, like uh, surprised to see the kind of results students have gotten. It's really shocked to see the kind of results that students have gotten. And this is a simplified example I've taken for you. GMAT does not adapt after every question. It most likely adapts after a bunch of 2 or 3 questions or maybe 4 questions. A block of those questions, it looks at your overall performance in those questions, and based on how you perform, it either decreases, increases, or maintains the difficulty level depending on how you perform. And it never reveals the weightage given to individual question difficulty levels, but definitely harder questions are weighted more than the medium hard and the other questions. Okay, so let's now take an exact, I hope all of you are clear with this simplified example. If no one is clear, anyone has a query, please let me know in the chat. I'll be happy to take that up for you. But let's take a actual scorecard from GMAT. So this is what is known as ESR, or Enhanced Score Report, which you can generate after the end of the test by paying a certain fee to the GMAT, so that you get to know how you performed throughout the test. Now, what it shows us right now is the performance of verbal for my test. Like, this is my own ESR, by the way. It shows the performance for the 4 quarters, as in it divides the total number of questions into 4 parts, and it shows how I performed in the first quarter. I got 75% of my questions right in the first quarter, 71% questions right in the second quarter, all the questions correct in the third quarter, and 62% questions right in the last quarter. So in total, I made a couple of mistakes in the first quarter, couple of mistakes in the second quarter, and 3 mistakes in the last quarter. So the total number of mistakes in the entire verbal section for me was 7. Okay, so I wanted to register this. Okay, 7 mistakes I made, and I scored a verbal 41. Okay, with 7 mistakes, I scored a verbal 41. Now I'm going to show you another scorecard. Okay, this is another scorecard of a student. On the right side that you see, this student has made a total of 8 mistakes. Okay, he has done one extra question wrongly. Okay, he has gotten one extra question wrong over me. And you see the pattern is 4 in the first quarter, 1 in the second quarter, 0 in the third quarter, and 3 in the last quarter. So more or less similar number of mistakes, slightly different pattern. What I want you to do is, you need to guess the verbal score of this student on your screen. The second student that you see, the first student was me. I told you I had a verbal 41. You need to guess the score of the second student on the screen. Okay, and I'm gonna give you about a minute to do so, and then I'm gonna reveal the score of the second student. And there are 26 people in the session. I want all of you to participate in this. Tell me, what do you think is the verbal score of this student? I'm gonna be muted for a minute. Okay, so I do see a few responses. Let's wait for a few more. Okay, Anshuman says it should be 38. Shalini says between 32 to 35. Jose says 34. Sai says it should be 36. Shalini explains that she thought 32 to 35 because high penalty for the first few questions. Okay, that's a valid point. Vijay says should be 38. Shruti says 35. Rajdeep says should be 32 to 35, in the same range what Shalini said. Okay, so I have about 3, 6, 8 responses. There are 20 people who are still silent spectators, but I would have loved to see what you think is the score of the student. But nevertheless, looking at the time which is available with us, let's quickly see the verbal score of the student. So this student actually scored just a verbal 30. Just a verbal 30. Urvashi, if the slides looks blurry to you, try to change the setting of the video to full HD on YouTube. That should ideally help. I don't think the internet is an issue at my end. It seems working fine to me. So try to switch to maybe like just full HD mode. That should ideally help you out. So basically, if you look at the verbal score of the student, it was just a verbal 30. Okay, just a verbal 30, even though there was just one extra mistake made by the student. And if you're not able to make sense out of this information, let me bring about another contrast over here. The verbal score, which I said, of 41 basically translates to a 93 percentile. Okay, The verbal score of 30 translates to a mere 58 percentile, guys. Just the 58 percentile. So what we are talking about over here, this one extra mistake. If let's say I combine this with a Q50 and this one also with a Q50, okay, this score translates to a 740 or 750. This score, on the other hand, translates to a mere 660 or 670, in that range. So you see, one extra mistake can cost you 80 points on GMAT. 80 points I'm talking about. I'm not talking about 10 points. I'm not talking about 20 points. I'm talking about 80 points on the whole. Can you imagine that? Can you even imagine that kind of a thing? It's a very, very different test. You cannot just look at accuracy as the mark. And not just this, guys. I have an ESR of another student, which I'm not showing in this session. Any one of you who wants to see it, you can always get in touch with me. I'll be more than happy to show that to you. 9 mistakes, the person got 26 percentile with a verbal 21. And that's like getting into the 500 zone, okay, in the GMAT. So that's the kind of penalty which happens. Now, Rajdeep says it's a heavy penalty. Is this penalty just for the first quarter? Not necessarily, guys. You need to understand the algorithm better. And I'm going to build that thought process as we proceed through the session. So understand in GMAT, skill rules over accuracy. Accuracy is not the king, skill is. Skill basically means, do you have the capability of getting the question of any difficulty correct consistently? Consistency is the key in GMAT. If you are able to deliver a consistent performance, only then, only and only then you can actually perform better on GMAT. And let's look at the difficulty level performance of these two students to make this even more clearer. You need to understand why this happened also. See, the reason why there's a huge difference in the scores, even after the fact that there's only one extra question that the student got wrong, is because this showed very different capabilities to the algorithm. The algorithm tried to determine whether the student has the capability of getting the harder questions right or not, and that's where they failed. For example, if you look at the first student, the student who scored a verbal for 30, he or she made 4 mistakes in the first quarter itself. Right when they started, most likely they got a good number of questions incorrect in the beginning itself. Like out of the first 4 or 5 questions, maybe 2-3 of them were wrong. So what happened was that it was at the medium difficulty level at which they started. The algorithm felt that they don't have the capability of getting the medium questions right, and then that's when they decreased the difficulty level slightly. So for them, the difficulty level dropped in the beginning itself. And the story doesn't end there. In the second quarter also, the moment the algorithm tried to increase the difficulty level, again the student made a mistake over there. So the algorithm felt that the student doesn't have the capability of getting the harder questions right. And that's why you see in the second quarter, the accuracy, the questions that the student got correct, which is represented by the blue dot over here, were easy, medium, basically. And on the other hand, the questions that this student got right were medium, hard. So this student showed the capability of getting the harder questions correct, and he was able to climb up on the difficulty chart very, very quickly. And that's where you kind of try and compare these two charts side by side. It's a huge difference. There's a huge difference in the difficulty level of the questions that these two students are getting correct. And that's why you see the difference in the scores. And not just here, look at the third quarter performance as well. In the third quarter also, the student has gotten medium hard questions right over here. Even though both of them got everything correct in the third quarter, both of them had same accuracy, but the difficulty level differed significantly between the two students. And that's what is the biggest reason between the score of these two students that you see on your screen. Okay, and let me kind of help you understand this better. Okay, before I get to this, let me ask you a question. What is the inference that you derive from this, guys? What is the inference that you derive from this? What is the inference that you derive from this, guys? Let me understand from you. I'm just trying to explain you something. I want to make sure that you have gotten the right understanding as well. You don't have a different understanding from what I'm trying to tell you. So what is the inference that you have derived from this, guys? Let me see some responses from you quickly. Just want to make sure that I'm able to drive the point across. What is the inference that you derive from this? I need to have 100% accuracy in first quarter. Okay, Sai, that's one inference. Good point. What about others? Any other inference that you guys were able to derive from this? I want to make sure you get the right inference from it. What Sai has said is one aspect, not the complete story. It's one important thing, but the journey just starts over there. What about others? I have about 25 people. Guys, do participate. Do let me know what you think. That will also make me share even more tips with you. That will excite me to actually give my best as well. If I see a dead audience where just one or two people are interacting, others are not, I don't think that will motivate me to kind of give you extra in the session. Okay, so I see two more people saying, telling their inferences. Okay, Urvashi says accuracy plays crucial role in the first quarter. Still partially true. Accuracy plays a crucial role in other quarters as well. More crucial, definitely first quarter is more important, most important, let's say. Consistency and a strong start. Very valid point, Jose. Really, really happy with what you have said. Dickon says, try not to go wrong in the beginning. Very valid point. If you start with making mistakes in the very beginning, in the first 3-4 questions, then it's very difficult to get back on track. Trust me, I've seen many other stories. I will show you more ESRs for this as well. We need to get as many right as possible, high accuracy. Okay, try not try not to get consecutive questions wrong. Very valid point by Prajwal. It's a very important point. You should not get consecutive questions wrong for sure. Focus should also be on getting easy medium questions mostly correct, not just the hard ones. Yes, Rajiv, you have to get the easy medium questions correct. In fact, what I would say is that in easy medium questions, you should have very less tolerance in easy medium questions. You can still get a few hard questions wrong, but in easy medium or easy and medium, let's say, talk it that way, you cannot get anything right. You cannot afford to get anything wrong. Sorry, you cannot afford to get anything wrong. Okay, that's what I meant to say. So in simple terms, if you want to score a 700 plus, there are two steps for it. Okay, number one, you have to make the algorithm serve you hard questions. Now, how do you do that? How do you make the algorithm serve you hard questions? The key to this lies in getting a high accuracy on easy and medium questions. But remember, this is just half the battle won. Okay, this is just half the battle won. The second part of your journey will be to get those hard questions right. So it is not just enough to get hard questions. You have to also get the hard questions right. And this cannot be just done like it. You have to develop the right skills and learn how to apply those skills as well. You need to develop the right skills. You need to develop the right process skills. You cannot use shortcuts on hard questions and get them right. For hard questions, you need to develop the right question solving skills as well. And I'm going to talk about that a little later. But let me just show you another data point which I have gathered from multiple ESRs that I've looked at. So what I tried doing was I just looked at different ESRs from different verbal score ranges. And what I tried doing there was I started looking at the verbal score of the students and started looking at the number of medium questions that a student got right and the number of medium hard questions that a student could have gotten right by looking at the ESRs. And I'm showing you a picture of all of this. So look at people who got a verbal 40 or more. Look at the number of medium hard questions they are getting correct. Okay. Look at people who are getting 36 to 39. Look at the number of medium hard questions these students are getting correct. Okay. Look at people who are scoring in mid 30s. Mid 30s means something around 32 to 30, 33 to 35 in that range. Look at the number of medium hard questions this student are guessing correct versus the medium questions. And now look at people who are getting around verbal 30. Okay. Look at those scores. Okay. And look at the number of medium hard questions the students are getting correct. So it's not just enough to start off well. Understand it, guys. It's not just enough to start off well. If you start off well, the algorithm will start giving you medium hard questions. But it is also very important how many medium hard questions you are able to get right. And in order to get more medium hard questions and get them right, you need to get them right consistently also. You cannot afford to get them wrong. You cannot afford to make mistakes in those questions either. So what is important here is that first of all, you get to the level where the algorithm starts serving you medium hard questions from the second quarter itself and start getting them right. Maybe one or two mistakes you can make here and there, but you cannot afford to make mistakes right when the algorithm gives you medium hard questions. If you make a mistake right at that point itself, the algorithm will start feeling that this student does not have the capability of getting the medium hard questions right, and it will bring you down to the medium difficulty. No matter how many questions you get correct at that point, doesn't really matter. You look at it over here. This student, for example, has gotten 21 questions right in medium and medium hard combined. This one has gotten 19 questions right. Look at this student. He has also gotten 20 questions correct in these two levels combined. But look at the difference in score over here. Look at the difference in score over here. And that's what I was trying to explain you earlier, right? This is basically how it works. I hope this is helpful. This is able to give you some sense of the algorithm, how it works. Okay, Ahmed has a question, but sometimes the verbal section can start with tough questions and taper down in difficulty level, right? Not really, Ahmed. I have not seen that. Mostly the test will always start from a medium difficulty question, and that's how it works. It starts from a medium level and then judges exactly where you are. Are you above it? Are you below it? If it starts from the top, it is very difficult to judge where you are. Okay, so that's the easiest way to judge the like your difficult, like your skill level, whether it is easy or hard. Medium is the best place to start in the least amount of questions. That's how the algorithm can judge you. Okay, so I hope this gives you some idea about the algorithm. Now let's talk about another very important question. How important are the last few questions? Many people tell me, Piyush, you are telling, okay, this is the strategy which will work, but what about the last 10 questions? You are skipping them. You are not getting a high accuracy on them. They are also important. Okay, so that is something which is very, very important question, which I get asked multiple times. So let me talk about this. So look at this ESR, guys, for a moment. Look at this enhanced score report. This is an enhanced score report of another student who has scored a verbal 34. The number of mistakes made by the student in the first quarter is 3, second one is 1, and the last one is 1. So total 5 mistakes were made by the student in total. 5 mistakes. And look at the verbal score. It's a 34. Okay. I made 7 mistakes. I got a verbal 41. See it for yourself. And this student, by the way, has a 100% accuracy in the last quarter. Did it really matter that much? It did help. I'm not saying it did not help at all. It did help because she was at least able to recover to a certain level. Had 100% not happened, she would have not done well. But does it help her if she has already compromised on the first quarter? Not really. Not really at all. Look at this second scorecard. And this is a Quant scorecard, by the way. This is a Quant scorecard. So look at the Quant score over here. Quant 50 is what the student has achieved. Okay. And look at the accuracy in the last quarter for this student for yourself. We're talking about a 57% accuracy in the last quarter. And still a Quant 50. Why? Because the student started off really, really well and maintained that. Again, you should not take this for granted. Getting these kind of numbers are not easy. I'm not saying that just by focusing on the first set of questions, you are gonna get a better score. I'm again repeating, guys, that's not how it works. You cannot just play on timing, be smart and get a high score. No, you first have to work on your skills. And Rajdeep is saying very correctly that answering the medium hard questions correctly is a good indicator of your skills according to the algorithm. Exactly. Because if you're someone who can get the medium hard questions right, medium hard is basically 700 level. Let's put it that way. If you get 700 level questions at GMAT knows that you are capable. That's why it gives you a high score. So Ahmed has a question. Let's take that up. If I get first 2 quarters right, and then can I guess the last 2 quarters? Can I ace it? Not really, Ahmed. I'm gonna get to that really, really soon. So I'm gonna get to that. It's not just like that. You can just do the first 2 quarters correctly, and then the last 2 you can guess. No, that will give you a decent score, but it won't give you a great score. For acing the test, you need to hit till the 3rd quarter minimum. Okay, and again I'm repeating, guys. I'm repeating this for the second time in the last 5 minutes. Please don't assume that you put in more time, you focus more on the first 2 quarters or the first 3 quarters and you'll get a good score. No, that doesn't happen. If you do not have the capability of getting hard questions right, even if you have 30 seconds extra to solve them, you will not get them right. You will still not get them right. Trust me, I've seen many, many ESRs in my life. That rarely happens. If you have the capability, only then you will get it right. Okay, so let's go to the timing strategy for verbal. Now, I'm going to talk about what is the best timing strategy, but I want to take up one timing strategy which is followed by many, many students. What many students do is they follow a linear pacing strategy, and this is something which many courses advocate, many experts also advocate. So, I just want to help you understand what is the best way to go about it. What does a linear pacing strategy mean? So, what I've tried to do is I've tried to divide the GMAT verbal section into 4 quarters. Okay, each quarter is, let's say, consisting of 9 questions. So 1 to 9, 9 to 18, 18 to 27, and so on. So 9 questions each. So what does linear pacing strategy mean? They generally, what they do is they kind of keep about 18 minutes for 9 questions approximately. Sorry, my bad. I just did like this. There's a typo over here. This should be about 16 minutes basically. Okay. So they keep about 16 minutes approximately for each quarter approximately. So overall, they are able to complete the test in about 65 minutes. Okay. So that's what the linear pacing strategy means. Okay. Now, is this right? Tell me, guys, is this linear pacing strategy correct? What do you think? And if you think it is not correct, why do you think it is not correct? Okay. I want you to analyze this and let me know what your thoughts are. If you are really attended this session properly till now, you should be able to come up with a very important inference in this part. Munda says it is correct. Okay. Why do you think it is correct, Muninda? That is more important for me to know. And if you think it is not correct, why do you think it is not correct as well? How? Let me hear from you guys. You have attended so much of this session. I hope you were able to derive some important lessons. More time should be spent at the end is what Prajwal says. Why, Prajwal? Valid point, but why do you think so? And I just want you guys to use your brain, come up with certain inferences. When you do that, and that way you get to learn a lot more, yeah. When if you just listen to what I'm saying, then you're not gonna learn as much. That's like passive learning. If you participate, you share your responses, you do active learning. You're using your brain to kind of come up with certain responses. And then you get to know whether that thought process was correct or not. Okay, Dickon says more time should be spent in later quarters when the harder questions come. Very valid point. Prajwal says so that even if we can't solve it, we have enough time to make a calculated guess. Okay, for calculated guesses, I don't think you need that much time, Prajwal, to be honest. You would require more time to get the difficult questions right at the end. Hence, proportionate to difficulty level should be used. Mayank, you have hit the bullseye. I'm so happy with that. That's exactly the pacing strategy which I recommend. Because harder questions are worth more points. Good point. Equal time for all questions seem like a good idea. Not really, Munindra. That's a very bad idea. No, 60 minutes per quarter, not enough to get 100% accuracy in first 3 quarters. Less time in last quarters is better. So Shruti has a different point. And let's bring out that point. Start heavy strategy. Many people, when I take this session, they think, okay, I should start heavy. I should give more time in the beginning. And what they do is they give about sometimes 20 to 25 minutes, sometimes 18 minutes also, anything in this range for the first quarter. They do a good job on that. In the second quarter also they start heavy, but what happens is then they're not left with any time in the third and the fourth quarter. And what you need to understand on the test is that the third quarter is very important as well. If you are targeting a low score, that's a different story. Let's say you're targeting a verbal 30, that's a different story. But if you're targeting the high 30s or the verbal 40 mark, you cannot compromise on the third quarter at all. And those people who say that, okay, I should give maximum time in the first quarter and the second quarter, are again going through a very wrong assumption. They are having a very wrong assumption in mind that just by giving extra time, they can get questions correct. That's very wrong thought process, my friend. You should not have that thought process. The maximum time should be given in the third quarter, in my personal opinion. And it should be exactly why Mayank said, you should take time based on the difficulty level of each question. So let me tell you what is my timing strategy for verbal. So I'm divided into 4 quarters: quarter one, quarter two, quarter three, quarter four for you. So my opinion is, first quarter, your time should be about 1 minute 40 seconds on an average. On an average, 1 minute 40 seconds is what you should spend. You should not try to do it in 1 minute. You should not try to do it in 1 minute 15 seconds. Give 1 minute 40 seconds to each question, approximately, I'm saying, on an average, because the questions in quarter one are gonna be medium questions. I've rarely seen people getting medium hard questions. There are one or two which you get as medium hard, but you generally get up to medium difficulty in the first quarter. In the second quarter, on the other hand, the questions will start getting medium to medium hard. And understand it this way, guys. I'm assuming over here that you're performing well in the test. That's my assumption. If you're performing well, in that case, this timing strategy matters for you. The moment the questions get more difficult, you will need more time to get them right. And it is, remember, Shruti and Overshi as well, you need to not just get the hard questions, you need to get the hard questions right as well. And in the third quarter, you will start getting really, really tough questions, even 750 level questions if required. GMAT will throw you those. And at that point, you need about 2 minutes 20 seconds to solve them. In the last quarter also, the questions are going to be difficult, but I'm recommending 1 minute 20 seconds. Doesn't mean that 1 minute 20 seconds you will spend on every question. This is the time which is left over now. 1 minute 20 seconds will be the time which is left over with you in the fourth quarter. What you should do in this quarter is, you should still give about 2 minute 20 seconds or even 2 minute 30 seconds to each question, and try to do only 50% questions and get them right, instead of trying to do everything. So these are your benchmarks, guys. Understand, the benchmark cannot be done in an absolute fashion. It has to be relative. It has to be relative to difficulty level of questions. And not just this, it should also be relative to the section. For SC, your average time should be 1 minute 30 seconds. When I say 1 minute 30 average, I mean for an easier question, it should be 1:15. For a hard question, it can go to even 2 minutes. Okay. And in CR, your average time should be about 2 minutes. In RC, your average time should be about 1 minute 50 seconds. Okay. So this is your average time. This is a baseline time for each section. Okay, and this is what we recommend at GMATWhiz to every student, that this is what your baseline time should be. And understand, guys, you also need to adjust this timing based on your strong and weak areas. At GMATWhiz, we don't believe in universalization of things. We believe in personalization of things. You are someone who is very different from others. So if you are strong in a certain area, you will take less time in that area. If you are weak in certain area, you will take more time in that area, and be open to that idea. Okay, at GMATWhiz, we believe in the idea of personalization a lot. You will find that in our course throughout, even through our AI that we use. And this is what I recommend to students all the time. So please make sure you are baselining with the right timeline. And when you are practicing, you need to devote the right amount of time for each difficulty level. So you have to play on that angle. So keep that angle always in your mind. I hope this pacing strategy is clear to all of you. If it is clear, that brings us to the next question. How do I optimize my time taken to solve every question? If your time taken right now to solve each question is not matching with the time which I have just shared on the screen, the next question which comes to your mind is, how do you do that? And understand it, guys, you cannot, and I'm telling it twice, you cannot reduce your time on the mock directly. You can only reduce your time during the practice phase of learning. When you're learning, at that point of time, you have to get to that timing. On the day of the test, you just need to replicate exactly what you do. You should not change your strategies at all. So let's talk about it a little. Now let's understand, why are you taking extra time? You need to understand exactly why are you taking extra time. Is it because of concepts? Is it because of application? If it is because of concepts, you will be taking extra time in specific topics. For example, within CR, you will be taking extra time on maybe boldface or assumptions, or in word problems, you will be taking more time on PNC questions, or in sentence correction, you will be taking more time on comparison questions. But if it is application related, you will be taking extra time with the entire module. For example, you could be taking extra time in the entire CR in general, not just specific areas of CR. You would be taking extra time in the entire CR section itself. So based on what is the timing issue, you need to approach it differently. Okay. So if you're having concept specific timing issues, then you need to review the topic properly to cover your concept gaps in that topic. You need to make sure that you first review the conceptual knowledge. And if you're a GMATWhiz student, on your dashboard itself, you will see that your AI automatically flags which are your concept specific issues. And it does not just flag you those topics, it will even give you additional video files to improve on those concept gaps right away. And this is a feature which all GMAT students will get on the dashboard itself. So first thing you need to do is revise that topic. And then after that, what you should do is you should focus on solving 10 questions, taking one at a time. And there is a file in the GMATWhiz course which is known as Concept Booster. You should try doing it through that itself. So you try to apply those concepts one step at a time and try to identify ways. Look at the solution, see what is the line of reasoning which is provided, see how you thought about the question when you approached it. What did you think in the first step? What did you think in the second step? Is it matching or not? Did you go in a different direction from what is being mentioned? If you went in a different direction, that's where you have wasted your time and energy overall. So you should focus on improving on that. Okay. And then you should try to focus on solving 30-40 questions in sets of 10 and gradually reduce the time. So let's say you're taking, by the end of this 10 questions, you're taking, let's say, 2 minutes 15 seconds per question. Then the next set you take of 10 questions, try to reduce it to 2 minutes 10 seconds or 2 minutes 5 seconds and so on. Gradually reduce it. I hope this is clear to all of you. Sai Chandra has a question. The time for each question display on the GMAT mini exam? Not really, Sai. There is a timer which is counting down the time from 65 minutes to, let's say, 0. So you have to estimate based on that itself. Okay. Now, how to work on application? So generally when students actually have issues on application, it is because they kind of try to over optimize the time. They try to read questions too quickly. They try to apply shortcuts, and then they get to the next question with a rough understanding. They get to the options with a rough understanding, and they're only able to eliminate 2-3 choices, and then finally they get stuck in 2-3 close choices. In the end, just getting stuck in these 2-3 close choices makes them reread the question stem. So basically, what happens is when you start reading the question stem quickly, you're saving time over here. But the moment you are stuck and you reread the options, you're actually losing all the time that you saved. In fact, sometimes you end up taking more time than required because of this. And that's when you end up marking something as time runs out. So the entire culprit in many cases is you started reading too fast, and that is a big problem. And this can happen because of 2 reasons. You don't know how to approach questions correctly. You don't know how to read the question stem correctly, how to analyze the question stem correctly, and that's what you're making a mistake. So if that is the case, try to work on it. If it is just that you're worried about timing, trust me, worrying about timing doesn't help you in solving questions faster. All it does is it takes away some of focus from the question, and it puts that focus on the clock, which is something incorrect, and you should not try to do that. You should try to avoid that at all costs. So try to learn the right method. For example, in RC, I'm just taking an example for you guys. In RC, it is very important that you think like the author. You should break sentence into chunks, derive its meaning, and not try to skim through the passage. And for every subsequent sentence, try to relate back to the previous sentence. And this is exactly what I did when I was at that position where I had 14 questions and 19 minutes left. Even then I did that. I focused on the method that I was used to doing. Okay. And for each sentence, you try to understand what the author is trying to tell you. Utilize the transition words and conjunctions to relate back the meaning, and summarize each para in your head. If you apply this reading strategy, if you focus on understanding the question stem right, trust me guys, you're going to take the most optimal time to solve questions. So if you are actually struggling with approach, your first step should be to understand the method, and then you should try solving 15 questions, taking one at a time. And over here, the solutions will become even more critical for you. You have to make sure that you analyze, see how the solution is telling you how to solve the question, what is the approach outlined over there, and then match that approach with your own approach. Okay. And review the explanations to divide deviations from it. Now, once you have understood the approach, then you need to master it by practicing 30-40 questions using the approach. That will help you internalize the method, and that will also help you reduce the time taken to solve questions. Okay. So in case you want to know about these methods, you can also, the best methods, we have a webinar series planned, as I said. you can use this link to register for this webinar series. And in this webinar series, we are talking about the best methods. In this session today, I cannot talk about all these methods, but you can use this link to connect to this webinar series. You can also, I'm just sharing the link to also schedule a discussion with me. If any one of you is interested in discussing your case and how we can help you improve your score, you can always reach out to me using this link. Connect with me over a call as well. Okay, but the idea is you need to master the application of concepts by reviewing the solutions. Okay, and all this works, guys. You can actually make this happen overall. Okay, so please make sure you work on a timing issue in your practice phase. Okay, I have a question from ALT. He says the difficulty of question also affects the time, but in exam we don't know that. So how should we tackle this? So again, as I said, you have to become natural at it. You have to understand that if you are finding a question difficult, it will automatically take you extra time. So you just have to be doing it natural. You cannot be conscious that, okay, this is a hard question or this is an easy question. You cannot judge every question like that. You have to do every question with an open frame of mind. Understood? So you should do that and try doing that in practice phase as well. Right? So all these things, if you do well, it works. And in fact, I'm just bringing you a case in point. Akshat, one of our students, was able to improve from 650 to 730 in just 24 days. And how he looked at his scorecard, I'm just showing you the scorecard of his first attempt. What he did in this 24 days, and I'm bringing this story because some of you would be taking the GMAT really, really soon. So he identified what were his weak areas in verbal. He saw that CR and RC were in general weak for him. He was taking extra time to solve questions, and he was also anxious during the test. You can see how he started the test. Look at this. He spent 2 minutes 38 seconds in the first quarter. He got a high accuracy. But what happened? Then he started panicking because he was rushed for time. And he got a very poor accuracy in the next quarters. It went down significantly. And that's why I was saying that in the first quarter, you cannot afford to take more than 1 minute 40 seconds on an average, because you cannot take too much time also. Otherwise, it will impact your score. You need to take the right amount of time. In his case, he was pressurized and he was not focusing on the method. So he realized that he needs to improve his CR and RC skills. Okay, so it is very, very important that you focus on that. So then what he did was, in the 650 attempt, this was his ESR. In the 730 attempt, he worked on these two skills, and you can see the improvement in CR and RC that he achieved. And he did that by working on his methodologies. Okay, so it is very important that you do this. And Prajwal, very valid question. He says how to find questions that use the same approach. So Prajwal, in CR, every question can be solved using framework driven pre-thinking. In SC, every question can be solved using meaning based approach. In RC, every question can be solved using involved and evolved reading, which I was talking about. So you will be able to learn the approach and apply them across all question types. And that's what Akshat was doing, that he focused on framework driven pre-thinking, internalized this, and then he made sure that he reviewed the solutions in depth for the correct answers too. He focused on getting the questions not just right, but also looking at, okay, did I actually think it in the same fashion as I was supposed to think it? And accordingly, he used to match his line of reasoning properly with every single thing. And not just that, for even the incorrect choices that he was marking, he used to see, okay, is this a distortion of the facts? Is this out of scope? Is this irrelevant? Is this opposite in nature to what is expected? So he used to have this thought process in mind. And this is something which we teach at GMATWhiz, that you should be classifying each error at least to improve your learning. On the actual test, you may not need to classify it. There's no extra point for it. But if you practice and you do classify things, you are then eliminating each answer choice on solid grounds. So he started eliminating each answer choice on those solid grounds, and he used to check that, validate that with GMATWhiz solutions to ensure that his approach was fine. And then what he did was he revisited his weak areas to improve understanding, and then he started also working on his exam anxiety. So another thing which was not working for him is the exam anxiety which is there. So he started by working on that as well. He connected with us, some of our mentors, and they advised him to reduce the study time to half, because earlier he was putting too much pressure on himself, because of which he was not able to maintain focus, and he was getting anxious as well. So what we recommended was that you don't cram too many questions. In fact, we asked him to reduce the time to half. As I said, he started doing half of the questions like that he was doing earlier on a daily basis, and he started focusing on quality over quantity. And then he basically what helped him was distancing oneself from the number of questions that he's solving, gave him more time to think about the approach and identify the application related errors, that fine errors that he was doing. And then in the test also, he took strategic timeouts. And this is something which I was talking about a little while earlier also. In the 730 attempt, this is the ESR from the 730 attempt that I'm showing you. In that also, he started off poorly. You can see 2 minutes 29 seconds on an average is what he took in the first quarter. But the difference from the first attempt and the second attempt was that in the first attempt, when he took extra time in the first quarter, he started panicking and he started rushing through everything. But over here, he stopped. He took a 30 seconds pause and he talked to himself that, okay, whatever is done is done. I've screwed up my start, which is what I did earlier as well. But this time I'm going to do better in the next questions which I have so that I get a better score. And he improved on it. Okay, so these are just some snapshot which I showed you from his interview, his discussion with me. If you want to watch his complete interview, you can use this link as well to actually check out his entire story. It's a very inspirational story which many people find really, really useful. So what I was trying to say was that you need to focus on working on your timing gap before the test, not after the test. Now let's talk about the timing strategy for quant as well, very quickly. So we have talked about the timing strategy for verbal at length. Let's talk about it for quant. Now let's look at two ESRs for quant as well. Okay, so what you see on your screen is an ESR for a student who has scored a quant 48 versus an ESR for a student who has scored a quant 50. Look at the two scores and tell me, like, what do you see as the difference in these two ESRs over here? What is the difference that you see in these two ESRs over here? What do you see is the difference in these two ESRs, guys? If you look closely, the difference is very, very obvious. The accuracies across every other quarter is same. The only difference is in the first quarter accuracy. And see what is the impact created on the score, overall score. It's huge. It's huge, guys. 2 points in quant might seem like a little, but 2 points in quant is at least a 20-point difference in the overall score. And not just this, let's look at the importance of the last 15 questions. Let's look at these three ESRs. Okay, check out what is common between all these people. 100% accuracy in the first quarter, a decent accuracy in the second quarter, as in at least 70%. But look at the accuracies in the last two quarters. Okay, accuracy in last two quarters versus their scores. The guy who scored a quant 50, his accuracy is about 66%. The guy who scored a quant 48, his accuracy is about 50%. The guy who scored a quant 47, on the other hand, his accuracy is about 35%. So basically, in the last two quarters, even if you get 2 out of 3 questions right, you can get a 50. If you get 1 out of 2 questions right, you can get a 48. And if you get 1 out of 3 questions right, you can still get a 47. But one thing you have to maintain is you should not make many mistakes in the third quarter. Like, third quarter should also be decent. Like, it should not be bad overall. So I'm not saying that the first 2 quarters are only that matters. The third quarter will also play a significant role. So overall, the time-taking strategy for quant should be that you need to try and get the first 15 questions right. Don't try to save time over here. I'm not saying that give extra time, but sometimes what happens is when someone starts the quant section, in the beginning they see easy questions, they try to cut down on the time over there, try to over-optimize the time. That is something you should not be doing. Don't try to over-optimize either. Try not to save time, give them their due time. And if possible, try to maintain decent accuracy in the third quarter also. If you're short on time, then selectively solve the last quarter questions. And what is important to achieve this is that you don't have control over which questions will come in the first 15, right? You cannot control which questions will come. So you need to at least get easy and medium questions right from all areas, including your weak areas as well, so that you're able to get those first 15 questions correct. So how should you time yourself in quant? So if this is the 4 quarters, first quarter timing should be about 1 minute 30 seconds, because this is where, according to GMAT, it is medium to medium hard questions. If you are good in quant, this will be more like easy to medium for you, to be honest. Okay, this will be more like easy to medium. But I'm just going by the definition that GMAT uses to keep it consistent for everyone. So 1 minute 30 seconds should be the average time in the first quarter. 2 minute 10 seconds should be the average time in the second quarter, because here the minimum difficulty level will be medium hard and it will only go to hard. And in the third quarter, the questions will get to very hard level, hard to very hard level. if you're doing well on the test. And the last quarter, it will be very hard only, obviously, but if you have less time left, do questions selectively. It's okay to do that. And while practicing, as I said, devote the right amount of time for each difficulty level and identify your comfort area. So, Prajwal, I guess you had this question in your mind that how do I skip questions? I guess it was Prajwal. I'm not sure if it was him or someone else, but please don't mind me. But I remember the question that how do I skip questions which I'm not good at? So, I would recommend that you should identify your comfort areas. And from third quarter onwards, you can be selective in the questions which are from your uncomfortable area after a certain time. For example, uh, I knew that geometry is an uncomfortable area for me, especially circles and triangles. I don't generally get the hard questions right from it. So what I did in my test was from third quarter onwards, if I had a question from circles or triangles and I have spent 1.5 minutes on that question already, I will ask myself, can you spend another 30 seconds, 40 seconds, or maybe 1 minute and get this question right confidently? Are you confident about it? If I was confident that, yes, I have seen this question earlier, similar question earlier, I can get it right, I would spend that time and I will just mark it and move ahead. But if I feel I'm not confident, I will skip it right away. Okay, so very important that you're very conscious of not overspending time on a few questions, and this is more probably in quant because sometimes what happens is we see a number question in algebra, right, and we kind of feel that okay, I think I can use certain values and like get this right quickly. And in order to save that time, you commit to that method and you realize that you're not getting anywhere even after spending 3 minutes. But just because you spent 3 minutes on that question, you think that, okay, it's too late to backtrack and use another method. So you continue investing more time in it. And this is what I call as time sink. So never, ever, ever in quant, commit to a method that you're not prepared for. Try to first think about what you're going to achieve out of doing that. And if you think it is a structured approach, then only apply it. I hope that helps you, Prajwal. And don't take simple questions too lightly, especially the DS ones. DS ones are the tricky ones. Trust me, like there is a tendency of missing a small trap or a small thing which in the question can actually create a lot of difference for you. So, and in case you know two methods to solve questions, use them for the medium questions and try to get them right overall. So this is my strategy for quant. So key takeaways from today's session. Number one, devoting extra time doesn't mean that you will have a high accuracy on the test. If you want a high accuracy, you need to improve your approach. It's a very wrong assumption to think that okay, you know how to get the questions right consistently. It's just about giving yourself extra time and you can get it right. No, that's not what I mean to say at all. Okay, you need to build the right accuracy. And if you want to reduce your time taken per question, do so in your practice phase itself. You can do so by identifying your pain areas and working on them. Okay, and don't change your strategies on the day of the test. If you have learned how to solve a question in a certain fashion on the day of the test, also do the same thing. You cannot change your strategies on the day of the test. Even if you're under time pressure, you should not change your strategy and solve questions quickly by using shortcuts. It's better to do less questions, but doing them correct is more important. Doing them correctly is more important. Okay, if you are feeling anxious, do take strategic timeouts. It always helps. Okay, and get a streak of consecutive questions correct. If you can do that, the bigger the streak, the higher you score, because that's when the difficulty level kind of jumps significantly. And spend more time on reading the question and don't cut any corners over there. Trust me guys, the answer is there in the question. The answer is not in the options. Okay, options is just to pick the answer. No test taking strategy, and lastly, works if you're not prepared for the test. So first of all, you have to prepare, and then only the test taking strategies will work. With that, I come to the end of the session. In case you have any questions about anything else about a GMAT prep, please feel free to kind of connect with me like on this email ID or the phone number. You can also post your queries in the comments. I'm going to be here for about 2-3 minutes at least, so I can take up your queries. If you want to check out our product, our course, it's a very unique AI driven course and it has delivered the highest score improvement in the entire industry today. You can check out our product using this link which I have shared. And in case you want to speak to us about your preparation, how we can help you get you to the outcome that we're talking about, you can always reach out to us as well using the phone number or using this link to book a call with us. Okay, so do let me know if you have any other questions, guys. I'm going to be here for 2 to 3 minutes. Happy to answer any questions that you might have about your preparation. So do let me know if you have any questions. I'll be more than happy to take them up. I'll grab a glass of water. In the meantime, you type your questions. Okay, so I have a question from Pajwal. He says, I have GMAT on 7th of September, December. Will I be able to improve my score, my preparation if I join you guys? So, Prajwal, if your answer is, will you be able to? My answer would be yes, because obviously, we will guide you in the right direction. Uh, but it always also depends on how you take that lesson, how quickly you understand those things and get to that. Very recently, we helped a student get to a score of 740 from a 670 in just 20 days, a 70-point jump in just 20 days. And this guy had already used two of the other courses like EGMAT and Magoosh, prepared for about 3-4 months before coming to GMATWhiz, but he was able to improve his score by 70 points even then in just 20 days. So it's not like you cannot, definitely you can. You have to be like patient, you have to do the right things also. So in case you want to check out the story of this guy Rishabh, you can always use this link which I have just shared in the chat here. That will give you some inspiration as well. So if you had a 680, Prajwal, very similar story. This guy had a 670, 10 points less than you, and was able to improve to a 740. So you can check out this story of Rishabh. This will be really uh, inspirational for you, and you can reach out to us definitely to work with us for your preparation. We'll be happy to guide you. We have delivered the highest score improvement in the industry till date, basically. Okay, I don't see any other questions, by the way. I have waited for about 2 minutes. If you have any other questions, guys, you can always let me know. I'll be more than happy to take those questions up for you. So do let me know if any one of you has any other questions. Okay. Can I contact you on this number after the session? So Prajwal, I would recommend you to kind of schedule a call if you want to connect with me. That will be better. That way my calendar also gets blocked. If you want to ping me on WhatsApp directly, you can also do that. But I would recommend to schedule a time on my calendar. That way it will be better. Deacon has a question. Often I encounter a question which I know I can solve, but I also know it will take me around 3 minutes. Is it better to move on or try and solve it? So see, Deacon, if you can solve this question in 3 minutes, if you know you can solve it in 3 minutes, not in 4 or 5 minutes, I would take that question. I will do that question. Definitely if it is in the first and the second quarter. If it is in the third quarter, depending on how much time I have, uh, most likely in most cases I would end up doing it if I am confident that I can get it right in 3 minutes. Because see, understand it this way that first and second quarter you cannot compromise, because if you compromise on any question, that will impact your difficulty level of the next quarter. In third quarter you get harder questions, maybe 1-2 questions you can get there incorrect, that is fine, but still I would try to maintain a high accuracy there. So if you're confident, I will go ahead and do it in 3 minutes. But if it is 4 minutes instead of three, I will probably not do that. I will probably work on that before the test itself. Hope that answers your question. Do let me know if that answers your question, and hope the session was really helpful for other people who have joined. I don't see any other question right now. Okay, Sai Chandra has a question. I'm taking GMAT this 18th. What tips can you give me? What do I do in 2-3 days? So 2-3 days, Sai, I would recommend to relax. Honestly, you should not do a lot. That's number one. Don't change your strategies. If you want to apply any of the strategies which I have told you today, uh, you need to at least take a mock test and try this at your at the mock test first before trying it on the GMAT. And honestly, should you take a mock in last 2-3 days? Generally, I don't recommend it. But if you found the strategies helpful, you can take a mock test and try and applying it there and see if it works for you. It will work, but 2-3 days is a less time to change something. So in this last 2-3 days, I would say relax and revisit the concepts that you generally trying to forget. That is what I would say. Don't try to squeeze in too much in last 2-3 days. Okay, I hope that answers your question. Xavier says, I had quarter one 80%, quarter two 80% in my last verbal mock, but I ran out of time in the last part. Getting 32 and 23, ended up with a verbal 31. What can I do? So, Xavier, you need to improve your performance in the third quarter as well. As I said, first 2 quarters are not just enough. You have to do better in the third quarter as well. Fourth quarter is where you can compromise. So, understand the root cause. Why are you taking extra time? The reason why are you taking extra time is because you don't know, you're not using the right method. You cannot cut down on the time by thinking that I have to cut down on the time. You have to improve your methodology that you are using to solve questions. Then only you'll be able to cut down on the time. Understood? And that's the same thing which was happening with Akshat. the guy I was talking about who improved his score from 650 to 730. He was taking extra time to solve questions because he was not using the methods correctly. So he started working on those methods, and I'm just showing you the link to check his story if you want to. So it will get you some help in terms of how you should go about your approach. So change your approach, your time will reduce. When the time reduces, you'll have more breathing space in the third quarter and you'll be able to do better in the third quarter. Okay? I hope that answers your question. Good, then I don't see any other question, guys. So it was great interacting with you. Do feel free to reach out to me later on if you want to, using this link which I shared, or to connect with my email on my email ID or my phone number. I'm more than happy to help you guys. All the best from my side for the GMAT test, and do apply the strategies on a few marks. It will definitely help you, and do give it this video a thumbs up if you found this session helpful. It will help other people also to benefit from the session. Thank you so much for being a patient audience. I'm really happy to interact with you. Towards the end of the session, definitely the interaction improved. So I'm really glad to have interacted with all of you. All the best, guys.